Channel 5 Network, this is MorningLine with Nick Barris.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us on Morning Line. Nick Barris here on a Tuesday. I hope you had a good holiday weekend if you were off yesterday. We've got a good show to kick things off this morning. I want to tell you that we're going to be not only on the Plus, but we're going to be streaming live on Facebook at NewsChannel5.com and NewsChannel 5 Plus if you want to join in the conversation with Chief Investigative Reporter Phil Williams. Good morning to you, sir.
Good morning.
Did you have a good weekend?
A great weekend.
Excellent. We were just talking. Both of our kids are in college now, and Jackson actually took off this weekend. Did he not?
Yeah, headed out for the Northeast. So Sunday. So I'm empty nester again.
You're in high ball. We're getting used to that. And it's interesting what you said. We're recapturing some of the things that we used to do. We miss our boys.
Right.
But it frees up some time.
Yeah, you forget when your children are with you that you used to have a life of your own.
That's exactly right. And it starts coming back to you.
So my wife and I had some friends over, for Labor Day, and just kind of rediscovering what it's like to have some alone time.
Exactly. It's
so you want family time, but you also need some of that couple time as well.
I think that's the great way to look at it. It's a great way to look at it. Well, thanks for coming on this morning,
Absolutely.
Phil. And as always, we're going to talk about some of his I-Team investigations. And we were going to focus today on the latest with Metro Schools and the school's director and some of the stories most recently that you've broken. But it does seem like, Phil, and maybe you can put it into context with folks who are just catching up with this, that it's mushroomed. I mean, you've been doing a series of stories over several months now, and I'm assuming, despite your digging and you find things there, when you do these stories, more tips come in, do they not?
Absolutely. In fact, there are stories that I am working on today that I know will, develop here in the next week or two or three, and it's based off of tips that have come in.
Sure.
I mean, a lot of what we're hearing is people coming to us saying there is something seriously wrong in the school system. You need to investigate, and one tip leads to a story, which leads to more tips.
Sure.
And so we're just continuing to get tips, and it really is, I think, a story of a school system that is in a bit of chaos. Mm-hmm. I mean, we reported on Friday there's now a fourth person who has sued the district for sexual harassment. The allegations among all of these cases we've reported are incredibly similar. It really reflects a culture that has not, for all intents and purposes, has not taken this issue seriously. Mm-hmm. And you would think after the Me Too movement,
right,
that as soon as there was an allegation, they would have been on top of it, and that just does not appear to be the case.
All right, and for some folks who may say, well, Phil, you keep doing story after story on the schools and the schools director. I mean, you follow the news. If some people are saying, well, what do you have against Dr. Joseph?
Right.
What do you say to that?
Well, it's not that I have anything against Dr. Joseph,
right,
but I am trying to provide a voice for the voiceless. Okay. All of these people who have endured just horrific sexual harassment, mm-hmm, they have a right for their voices to be heard. And the fact that this just keeps, what's the metaphor, peeling away like an onion?
Yeah. It's mushrooming up as one story after another, but there's layers here, and you keep getting deeper into this.
Exactly, and I think we're going to get deeper in the weeks ahead. I mean, we're looking at a school system, number one, that is facing a serious funding crisis, mm-hmm, and that's bigger than just the school system. That has to do with how taxes are collected in the city of Nashville.
Sure.
But you have a school system facing a serious funding crisis, and now they're facing 4 lawsuits, mm-hmm, that could end up costing the district a lot of money that wouldn't end up going to kids, but for paying for victims and for the damages that, mm-hmm, they have suffered, and we know of at least 2 other people who have indicated that they plan to file lawsuits in the weeks ahead.
Wow.
So from a taxpayer perspective, this is important because it could end up costing taxpayers a lot of money. This most recent lawsuit asked for $1.2 million in damages plus reinstatement to her job. pay, as well as attorney fees, punitive damages. So that one case itself could end up costing a lot of money. Multiply that times 4, and we're into serious money here.
Whenever I see one of your investigations, and I know your goal, hopefully, is positive social change, meaning that you expose something that is a problem.
If there's wrongdoing, we want to expose it.
And then hopefully, once it's exposed, perhaps it's corrected and things run better. I wonder if you get a sense then with Director Joseph or the like, as these things come up, some of them have already happened, these lawsuits, but is there any change coming about in your interaction with him in terms of if you think there has been a blind eye turned towards some of these things that have led to these lawsuits? All right, so at the very least, someone could say, you know what, there may have been mistakes here. We're going to make some changes.
Well, here's what I would say to that. It's interesting because as a result of our investigation, the school system recently hired a law firm to review their HR, their human resources practices. It's a contract with the law firm up to $100,000. Again, this scandal is costing taxpayers money because instead of hiring people who know how to run a human resources department, they have to hire a law firm to come in and tell them how to run it. Right. So they have hired the law firm and said that they're reviewing their practices. On the other hand, you have to give them credit for doing that. On the other hand, they keep saying, well, we really think we've handled everything well.
Yeah.
So it's almost like we're doing this because we have to, but we really don't think there's a problem.
Okay. Now, I was meaning to ask you about that, by the way. It kind of drove me nuts when I saw it. And I understand what you're saying. They had to bring in, I guess, this firm to look at it at a cost of $100,000. But I was like, wait a second. Do we really have to do that? I mean, I think you and I can sit here and say, all right, okay, here's some basic things. You take complaints seriously. You look into them, make sure they're properly reported. You take action and you deal with it. I mean, what are these lawyers really going to tell us? I'm just curious. Can you put it into context why, not just in this case, but in other cases sometimes when these firms are brought in to evaluate, why do we have to drop $100,000 for something that frankly to me seems like it should be pretty much common sense?
And Dr. Joseph has brought in 2 experienced human resources professionals who are making more than HR people for Metro government are making. Okay. So you would think that he would be hiring people who know how to do this.
Right. It should.
But it doesn't appear to be the case, because there have been some serious flaws in how these investigations have been handled.
Okay, we do have some stories of yours that we're going to play this morning, and we have some of them queued up. The first one, and it's some that have already aired, of course, but we can revisit it this morning and take questions, is I think the one Mary Elena was talking about, queuing up the one on an audit on, there's the financial audit, but then there's also one on the election and the vote. Which one do we want to start with?
I think we're going to start with the election because Dr. Joseph was speaking to a group of bus drivers and there were, the subject of came up about who he had voted that morning, and there was some allusion to voting in a way that you support the people who support you.
Okay.
And he mentioned one person who was on the ballot who had not supported the bus drivers. Really kind of ventured into electioneering.
Right.
When there are laws against public officials trying to influence the outcome of an election. So this is a recording where someone heard him venturing into this territory and decided, I'm going to press record because this doesn't sound right.
Let's listen to this piece and watch it.
I know you need those dollars.
This audio recording obtained by NewsChannel 5 Investigates captures Metro Schools Director Dr. Sean Joseph in an unguarded moment as he met with school bus drivers during their in-service training back on Election Day, August 2nd.
That was the first thing that he said, that I hope y'all notice I voted today. And he pointed to his I voted sticker on his shirt.
This veteran driver says Joseph told transportation employees that he had tried to get them a pay raise. But when a proposed property tax increase came up in the Metro Council, Joseph noted it was initially a tie vote, and one of the candidates on the ballot had cast the tie-breaking vote that went against them.
And that person was up for election today, and for us to get out and vote.
Was he suggesting that you vote against this person?
I felt that he was trying to persuade us to vote against that person, yes.
Joseph was asked to name names. Instead, he dropped hints.
So there was a tie. There was a tie, right? And then who breaks the tie? Is it the vice mayor? Yeah, the vice mayor. Yeah, we don't have to say it. We don't have to say it. There was a tie. There was a tie. There was a tiebreaker. All you got to do is just do a Google search and search it, and you'll figure it out.
And it was election day on government property. He's a government employee. Under being paid at the time, I felt that he was trying to persuade us in how to vote.
We played the recording for acting Vice Mayor Sherry Weiner. Weiner had cast the tie-breaking vote that killed a proposed property tax increase. She's now running to be elected to the position.
Frankly, I'm blown away. I'm disappointed. I'm disheartened because he knows the truth.
I understand it's important for you all to know the facts. But it was a tie. It was a tiebreaker. That stuff matters.
That's not on me. I got him $2 million more than what he would have gotten had the mayor's budget passed.
Weiner said what Joseph did not tell the drivers was that the mayor had opposed the tax increase, and if he had vetoed it, the council did not have the votes to override it. And Weiner's main opponent, Metro Council member Jim Schulman, voted exactly the same way, which had Weiner questioning why Joseph singled her out.
Why me and not Jim? Is it my gender? Does he not like me for some reason? I don't know. I just don't know. I wish I had the answer, but I don't.
In a statement, Metro Schools insisted, quote, our director had just exercised his right to vote and encouraged our drivers to do the same. There was never any insinuation to vote for or against any candidate.
I mean, I'm the only one that's acting vice mayor right now. Who else could he be talking about?
And it's not the first time Joseph's been accused of election meddling. 3 days before the election, as Thais Hunter, one of Joseph's staunchest supporters on the school board, was fighting to save her job, he posted this tweet praising her for her leadership, and he ordered principals across the district to retweet him.
You always do need to be careful in terms of, who you're talking about, in terms of encouraging the vote for one candidate or another.
As for Vice Mayor candidate Jim Schulman, he said having the schools director feuding with the acting Vice Mayor isn't good for the city.
I am much more interested in trying to get this stuff resolved than getting into a battle with, other appointed officials or elected officials to do that. We just need to sit down and get this stuff worked out.
Interesting. Phil, it seems like the way he did it, it's almost as though the director was aware of the fact that he couldn't come flat out and say the name. Like he knew that he was kind of straying into territory that might be a problem.
Exactly. And they put out the statement saying that there was no insinuation to vote for or against any candidate. I think the viewers can listen to that audio and make up their own mind about that.
We'll take a quick break on that because we're up against the commercial. When we come back, we'll talk more about that. We'll take phone calls. You can comment as well if you'd like. We are right now streaming live on Facebook, NewsChannel5.com. And on News Channel 5 Plus. More with Chief Investigative Reporter Phil Williams right after this. Stay with us.
Everything was